Good afternoon and welcome to our LMS Transformation Town Hall. I think we're all here so we can begin the session. Next slide, please. So today is the first of the 2 town halls we have planned for the month of June. We have another one scheduled for tomorrow at 11 a.m. So for those of your colleagues who couldn't make this session, please encourage them to join us tomorrow morning. Some general housekeeping items before we get started. As usual, we ask that you submit questions via the Q&A feature in Zoom, and we will be answering these questions live at the end of the meeting. All questions and answers will be documented and uploaded to our FAQ section of the LMS Transformation website. And just a reminder that we will not be using the raised hand feature for questions. Also, a copy of this presentation deck and the recording will be available on our website following the meeting. Next slide. So our agenda for today, after the welcoming remarks, we have a program update. We'll be talking about Canvas training resources, vision for course redesign, and then a course journey web app demo, followed by a Q&A session. So the current state, for those of you who have joined us previously, you've seen the slide before, and it's exciting to see all the milestones on this roadmap that have been grayed out. We have accomplished a lot since we kicked off the project, and just want to highlight a couple of things this afternoon. If you look at the key on the bottom right corner, we have some technical activities highlighted on this roadmap, some go lives, as well as transformation activities. So if we start with the technical activities, we've accomplished all of those until the winter go live. And I want to highlight that we started with requirements gathering. We had Canvas platform development, and then Canvas basic configuration, which was completed ahead of time in preparation for our summer go live. As far as go lives, we have the summer go live. We are ready for it. We have all the courses ready to go, the access figured out, and we are looking forward to a successful go live for a very small cohort next week. The transformation, well, let me talk about the fall go live. Fall go live is scheduled, of course, for September, and it's also for a select cohort, but a little larger than summer go live. And then for winter go live, which is January of next year, for all faculty and staff with winter courses. Of course, there's an exception process that is in place, and we'll talk about that. As far as the transformation activities, starting April of this year, we established monthly newsletters and monthly town halls. We had numerous meetings with deans, and we'll continue to do so. We have started working with faculty champions and academic unit leads, and having regular engagement with that group. Canvas training starting this month for staff and support, as well as course journey selection app, which was released earlier this month. What we have right now, we're focusing on learning design support, trying to understand what is the need, what type of faculty course journey mapping selection we have to prepare for. So planning to support our faculty as we transition CCLE courses into Canvas. The next thing is Canvas training starting September for faculty, instructors, and TAs, followed by all access starting September for all faculty, instructors, and TAs. Next slide, please. Some key accomplishments here. Excuse me. We launched the UCLA LMS with the Masters in Health Administration and the Intercultural Communications in the Global Workplace courses. We have deployed, as I said, Course Journey web app, which will enable faculty members to share their level of consultation or redesign requests so that the project team can support them through this migration journey, or transformation journey, I should say. And then finalize the sample course migration from CCLE into UCLA LMS. And you probably recall as mentioning this before, it's an iterative process. We're trying to get the migration from CCLE to LMS as clean as possible. And then the last item here, we developed a support strategy plan for onboarding support staff and fall cohort participants. We want to make sure as our community gets access to the platform, we are prepared to support them in Canvas. Jeff, next slide.
All right, so talking a little bit about what's coming up. So there are a lot of preparations underway for access for the fall pilot, not the least of which are finalizing the training materials that'll be offered to faculty, staff, and others. The program team is continuing weekly engagements with academic unit leads and faculty champions. And so if there are issues or questions or ideas that are coming up at the unit level, please share them through the academic unit leaders or the faculty champions, as we're in touch with them regularly. And there's a lot of kind of ongoing conversation and coordination happening in those weekly engagements. With the software work group and others on the project team, we're looking at finalizing the integration of tools and software. So these are sometimes known as LTIs that are in the Canvas platform for the fall quarter. And then we'll be taking the data from the Course Journey web app and using that to help guide choices about instructional design support. Go to the next slide, and I'll talk about the last one in a bit. And I'll turn it over to Erin here.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Erin Rinchie-Thomas, and I am the Organizational Change Management Lead on our LMS transformation project. And I am here to offer you just a quick update and overview on the fall 2021 training structure. So beginning from left to right, first and foremost, as we move toward the launch of fall, in this coming month, we will be sending out a newsletter, which will include communications to each and every faculty member who will be training, or excuse me, who will be teaching within the UCLA LMS this fall. And within that letter, we will include a link to a toolkit, as well as webinar sessions and office hours to offer additional support around that rollout of the LMS, of the UCLA LMS. Within those toolkits, we will offer a platform overview, which essentially will just consist of logging in and basic navigation of the Canvas platform to help you get familiar with all of the different aspects of it, as well as the foundations of Canvas guides to give you a bit of a deeper sort of understanding of what those templates and that experience will look and feel like in Canvas. There will also be links and materials around engagement and the appropriate integration guides. And lastly, there will be course templates, which will give you, again, some options and opportunities to be able to create those templates that are best for your individual classes and courses. Next, we will offer webinars, which will consist of just basic welcome to Canvas sessions that we will offer specifically to our governance groups, champions, as well as academic unit leads, to make sure that those individuals have the opportunity as sort of a first look of what Canvas looks and feels like from a high level. Our instructional designers will then also be leading teaching and learning focused sessions so that we are able to really address the all-important pedagogy and how that sort of interacts with the Canvas platform. The technical training team will also be offering some sessions in which they will discuss basic navigation of Canvas, help you start to learn and get to know a bit about the platform and how to easily use it, as well as sharing best practices. And lastly, we will offer office hours, and essentially the LMS transformation program team will conduct these drop-in office hours to give you the opportunity to drop in at your convenience for any additional support, to ask any questions that you may have or any concerns. On the next slide, I will provide a brief overview of the various roles that will be that will have access to training in the very near future, and just to give you a snapshot of what will be included within that training. And so from left to right, I'll start with sub-account admins. You'll notice that in pretty much each of these sections, there is a quick start guide that is included. That's for folks who are fairly comfortable with the platform and are ready to sort of jump in and just need to know some of the basic how-tos. So pretty much each section will be offered that quick start guide with those materials. In the case of sub-account admins, they will also receive admin checklists as well as documentation to help sort of guide what their roles and responsibilities are as sub-account admins, as well as UCLA LMS curated materials. Next, from a technical support perspective, we will be offering integration guides, and that's for those specific integrations which will be active during the fall time, as well as troubleshooting documentation, and again, those curated materials. For instructors and instructional support, we will offer those guides, as I mentioned, but we will also be offering teaching with UCLA LMS training materials. So those are the how-to guides, how to very easily get to know and utilize the UCLA LMS, as well as teaching and learning materials really focused on pedagogy. So instructors as well as instructional support will receive those materials, with our instructional support folks also receiving some pretty specific materials around the TA role within the UCLA LMS. Lastly, students will also receive that quick start guide and some materials related to how to best learn from a best practice standpoint, as well as a practical standpoint with respect to how to learn most effectively in the UCLA LMS. That is my update. I will pass it over to Jess.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Craig, and I'm the Associate Director for Educational Development with UCLA's Center for Education Innovation and Learning in the Sciences, CEILS. And I'm going to share our center's current use this summer of Canvas as a case example. So starting on July 7th, we are going to be hosting our annual week-long institute that we've done the past several years. But this year, because of COVID, we are changing it up to do via Zoom and using Canvas. And so I've been leading the planning of this summer's institute, which will be on the foundations of equitable course design and inclusive teaching. And it's been really exciting for me to be able to design this course in Canvas. We're also thinking strategically about building some mini courses later this year in Canvas for topic-specific trainings, specifically thinking a lot about equity and inclusion in our STEM classes on campus. And so we're excited to be able to start to use Canvas for these professional development resources. So on the right here is just an example of a page in Canvas from our institute. And in terms of the instructor end of designing content, it's been very intuitive and easy to use. As with any new tool, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but as it relates to CCLE tools and functionalities that people might be used to in terms of creating assignments, quizzes, content pages, loading files and videos, the functionalities is similar in terms of what you would want to do in your course. And the look and feel of the platform is very modern and easy to navigate. So it's been really, it's been easy to embed any videos or files and to use the text editor. And there's also a nice image search tool that I appreciated to quickly find relevant images that you might want to put on a page. Or of course, you can upload your own images. So if you go to the next slide. In terms of our center's vision for supporting the LMS transition, we're really excited to leverage some of the features available in Canvas that support some of the best practices and research on teaching and learning. And so we recognize that this coming year and future years for that matter, we might have events that require a quick shift in format again. I hope that's not the case, but we definitely want to help faculty design courses with more flexibility in mind. This LMS transformation also provides a really crucial opportunity for UCLA to improve around accessibility of student materials, which is something that really needs to be more of a priority on campus, but also needs to be made easier for faculty and instructors to be able to do and to have support around. And I learned from Jeff that UCLA is going to be using a service called Ally from Blackboard that will provide more clear and detailed information about accessibility issues in instructor Canvas course sites. and automating some of the accessibility needs, providing students alternative options where available. So really thinking about course materials like automatically having your videos captioned or PDFs made accessible for screen readers, those types of things. Our center wants to support this work. And a lot of that work is being led by Travis Lee and his team at UCLA Disabilities and Computing in OIT. And in terms of some of those best practices that support inclusion and equity in courses, we want to work to create some really clear and well-structured examples of things like opportunities to get feedback from students in various formats throughout the course, using tools like exam wrappers. So thinking about a few questions you might ask before or after an exam to build in some metacognition around learning, and things like sample instructions for group work where peers might take on different roles, having detailed rubrics for assessment of student work, those kinds of materials that can be really just really copied into your own modules and then edited or customized to meet your needs without each instructor having to start from scratch. So we're really excited and eager to continue to work with campus leadership and with instructional designers and the other teaching and learning centers on campus to really help create these high-level examples that are quick and easy to use. And so lastly, just along with the other leaders on this project, really identifying and promoting some of the notable features in Canvas. So here on the right, you see this messaging feature. So for example, after an exam or an assignment, you can send a targeted message to a group of students based on a threshold grade. So for example, you might send one kind of message to students who did really well, who scored above a 90% on the exam, congratulating them and encouraging them. But you might send a different message to those who scored below 75%, for example, really encouraging a growth mindset, providing some study strategies, encouraging them to come to office hours. So our center would love to collaborate and develop some, examples or sample text for what those messages might say, what resources might be included. Again, with the goal that instructors will have easy access to these. It will be very quick and easy to implement rather than something that you need to develop from scratch necessarily each time. And so that's the end of my section here, but I'll stick around at the end for Q&A if there's any questions.
Thanks, Jess. So we're going to do a little demo of the Course Journey web app. So if Victoria, you can stop sharing and I'll go ahead and share. Okay, so as you're probably aware, there is a new app that has been launched to help really all of the groups on campus that will be involved with supporting the transition to Canvas. And in particular, a question that we have internally on the LMS project and that we get from the units and the teaching and learning centers like SEALS is how do we estimate how much effort is going to be involved in helping faculty that want to do new things on the platform. And so the Course Journey app, which is available to faculty in my UCLA, and I'm highlighting it here, let me know if you can't see my screen, is a simple application to be able to allow faculty to specify which of the journeys that they would expect their courses over the next year or so to take. So just as a reminder, the project lasts through fall of 22. So when we say a year, we're talking about the transition of pilot courses that are especially approved in fall of 21, the target of having all courses with a very limited set of exceptions transition starting in winter of 22 and then ending in fall of 22. So this app is designed to allow faculty to select a journey for each of their courses. And so as kind of another reminder, remember there's automatic course migration of content from CCLE into Canvas. And the hope is that there's really a limited amount of effort needed to just lift and shift those existing courses from one platform to another. And so faculty could select that journey if they don't intend to do a lot of work between now and fall 22 on the course, or they can select one of the other two options, which are course journeys that we've talked about in town halls and various engagements across campus, which are kind of modest support to enhance the course with new features that might be offered in Canvas or new things that have been learned by offering the courses remotely over the last year, to the most significant level of support and redesign anticipated, which is the redesign or reimagining of a course in Canvas, where significant help is desired by the individual faculty members. And so what this app allows faculty to do, and we would encourage as many people as possible to fill this out as quickly as possible with their basic understanding of where they'd like to go for their courses, so that we, along with the other campus teaching and learning and support units, can understand the demand, especially for the more intensive levels of support. So I'm going to just do a quick sort of walkthrough of how this application works, and then we can answer questions now or later if any come up. So there's a fairly extensive splash screen here that describes the course journeys for those that have forgotten what they are, and then suggests an opportunity to watch a tutorial if a faculty member wants to see how to use the app, or a step-by-step guide. One sort of important thing I want to highlight here is that lift and shift is the default. And so if most faculty, if a faculty member is expecting that most of their courses are not going to require instructional design support, or they're going to either do everything themselves or not need a lot of additional staff help, that's the default already. And so there's no need to go in and do that entry for all the courses. It's assumed to be the default. Really what we're looking for is for faculty that are expecting to have instructional design support of one type or another, make sure to fill this out so that we have a sense of where they would like to go. So I'm going to click through the splash screen and just give you an example. There's a little bit of information on recent courses, how to handle recent courses, older courses, and new courses that I'll talk about in a moment. But the basic use of the web app is to present both courses that are coming up and already listed in the registrar, or courses that have already been offered at some point. And I don't teach biomathematics, but they've been using my account as a test. So that's why you see all kinds of things in here. And so there are past courses listed back to 2019. And the reason for that is those are the courses that will be covered in the migration. So if you see a course in the Course Journey web app, it's there for one of two reasons. It's already listed with the registrar, or it is part of the set that will be automatically migrated. And if you have a course that is based on earlier material, or a new course that's not listed yet with the registrar, or for some other reason is not here, you can select new course, and I'll walk through that for a moment as well. But just to give a quick example, I'm actually going to click the filter button here and search for one specific course, which is an undergraduate course that I expect to want some modest instructional design support for. So I'm going to click Edit, select a course journey that is Enhance, and then select a term of when I expect that it would be offered. So probably, let's say it would be in the spring, and click Update, and that's it. And I can certainly go back and edit those or make changes, but with that entry, the LMS program team will be able to pull a report, essentially, that indicates my interest, and there'll be follow-up that comes back from the team to the faculty member about that course journey. And at that time, I might say something like, well, it's based on actually material that's long ago, and perhaps the team can help pull that older course data. That's something that we're still looking at whether or not we're going to be able to do. Or I can get some assistance in adding things to the automatically migrated data from this term, fall 2020. So then if I have a course that's not listed on here, I can choose to add a new course, confirm that it's going to be offered in the period of the transformation project, select a title by picking first a department and then giving it a new number. So let's say 113, and listing when I expect it to be taught and what the course journey would be. Let's say this is a new summer course that I'm going to offer, and I would like some help. It will get added to the list, and right now I'm filtering this list, but it would show up. Let's check and see that it shows up here. Does not, so that's an interesting. I should test all of these things in advance, but so 113 is somewhere in my course list here that I will try to find and show later on if I can. And that's the basic, those are the sort of two basic methods for demonstrating for the team what you would like to have, what type of support faculty would like to have in their course, either editing an existing course entry or creating a new course entry. Now, there are a couple different possibilities, right? So you could be creating a new course and have a couple past listings of that course. It only needs to be updated in one of those entries. Really, this is just a data collection tool for the program team and others on campus to understand the new courses and revised courses that are going to be offered in Canvas between now and fall 22. You only have to indicate that preference in one place. And so whatever is the most appropriate place for the faculty member is fine. I'm going to check and see if there are questions. Okay. Regarding lift and shift, what if your structure and materials in CCLE don't move automatically as is? I think, so this is a question that's related to the performance of the migration. And I'll let the program team correct me if I say this the wrong way, but I think the intention is that 90 to 95% of the material will translate with hopefully no user intervention for particular integrations that might have been supported on CCLE and are not supported on Canvas. I would hope that our approach will be to identify the users of those integrations and then flag them. And so we can proactively reach out to the faculty that might be affected by a difference between CCLE and Canvas with respect to the integrations. If we can't do that, faculty will have access to their migrated course information starting in September. And we will encourage them to take a look at those courses that have been migrated and to reach out to the team if they have concerns about something that hasn't moved properly and they don't know how to fix, or an integration that's not going to be there in the winter. And so I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that answer. But I think there's a mix of sort of proactively reaching out where we know there are going to be gaps, but then also we will communicate with the faculty when the course migrations have happened and ask for that kind of feedback, even for the lift and shift courses.
Jeff, next one that we have is, can anyone submit a course journey for any course? And if so, how will the team know to filter out legitimate requests from non-legitimate requests due to confusion, rescheduling, etc.?
I hope I'm answering the correct question, but you should only have access to courses that you as a faculty member should only have access to courses that are listed for you with the registrar. So potentially faculty could enter courses that they're not teaching, but I would hope that's a rare occurrence and probably a bug rather than an intentional intentional hijacking of the process. If I understand correctly, this app is only available to those that have an instructor role in my UCLA, so it's not something that's going to be seen widely outside of the faculty. So hopefully, Kat, that answered your question, but let us know if not. Is there a deadline for faculty to complete the course journey? So my answer would be as soon as possible in order to inform everyone on campus that needs to provide support for the instructional design activity. We had originally asked for that by the end of June, but we're trying to allow for responses to still come in and inform the process. But the sooner we know, the better the planning can be. Jennifer, anything to add in terms of the date there?
To your point, our hope was to have as many of these requests in by end of day tomorrow, but as mentioned, we're going to leave it open a little bit longer because we are in summer quarter and we want to make sure that we get as many of these collected as possible so that we can plan for the support that will be needed for faculty as we move into the academic year. All right, great.
Great.
I'll read it. What if I'm not teaching a course until winter? Can I still use the Course Journey app to set up my winter courses?
So absolutely. I think something to remember is that the Course Journey app is a way to specify intent, right? It's a way to share your intent with the team. It won't limit you one way or another in terms of what you'll be able to do with the course. It's a planning tool to allow us to make sure there are resources. And so we are absolutely looking for faculty that are teaching courses later in the academic year, in fact, through fall 22, to go ahead and fill out entries in the Course Journey web app for all the courses that they would expect to need instructional design support on. So if I understand the question correctly, absolutely, yes. We're looking for all faculty teaching through fall 22 to go ahead and enter course journeys for their courses so that we can plan. And one little bit of follow-up is that if there are entries in the course journey app, we will reach out to faculty to follow up on those. And so once you've done an entry in the app, you should be getting outreach at some point, at least a quarter ahead, I would imagine, of when the course is being offered, if not earlier. Okay, I will go ahead and answer the course migration question as well, and then maybe the Canvas Studio can come in the Q&A. So this is a good question about course migration and what we've learned. And so there is no report, but I think if there's an offline interest in talking about what we've learned, happy to kind of work through with anybody or have somebody on the program team work through with you some of the things that are learned in the migration process. Just as a reminder, there are, I think we've talked about in the town halls, multiple runs. So this is the first run of around 20 courses to look at how the migration transformation will work. And then there'll be another run of about 500 courses that'll come later in the summer. And those courses that are being used as samples are being coordinated with the individual units to try to make sure they're representative of the courses being taught. And what we're learning is exactly the type of information that the program team needs to provide to the migration vendor to make sure that what looked like a course in CCLE looks like a similar course in Canvas and has fits into an organization that both makes sense for Canvas but represents the courses that existed before. And so that ranges from making sure that individual integrations and LTIs migrate, but also looking just at some things as simple as course structure and week by week material breakdowns, presentation of syllabi, transformation of discussion groups, all those sorts of things are being looked at in the migration. So it's a long list of a lot of details. And if anybody has interest in some of those details, happy to follow up on that offline. So hopefully that answered a bit of that question.
Great.
With that, I will turn it back over to Victoria for the slides. And I think in the meantime, we can answer, while we're turning the slides back on, Canvas Studio is not being added immediately at this time, but it is one of the tools that's going to be reviewed by the software work group and the program team going forward. So please, if you're interested, please do reach out and let us know or let the program team know. All right, so Kimberly will have your information. We'll have this information. We collect the Q&As and the program team will keep track of that interest. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Jennifer. It looks like we have new questions coming in.
Great. All right. First question, will you keep CCLE open for a while so we can compare courses from the before and after?
I can answer that since I was talking for a while. So the intention is that CCLE will continue to operate for some period as long as there is a need for it to be there. And so the exact sunset is something that's still being discussed, but certainly for a while is the intent, right? So the faculty, there are a number of reasons to keep it operating. There are some units that are coming in a second wave. A few on campus that use CCLE as a sort of secondary LMS. We have to continue the migration process, prepare an approach for archival of the courses that are in CCLE. And then, as we mentioned earlier, there are a limited set of courses, primarily multi-quarter sequence courses of a particular kind that have the option to stay in CCLE, at least for the fall and winter, in order to have some continuity of instruction. But that's a pretty limited set, but it's another reason that CCLE will be running for a bit.
Any other questions from our audience? All All right, next question. Will we have access to Canvas 24-hour helpline? I'm happy to answer that, or Lucy, go ahead.
Yes, we will have access to Canvas 24-hour helpline, and you could access it through chat or phone call. So that's a great addition to our support.
Next up, my department uses collaboration sites heavily and for very important purposes. When should we plan on using Canvas for these, and how can we best prepare for this transition for collaboration sites in particular?
I can try to answer that and then see if there's any corrections from the team. So collaboration sites are included in the migration. There's not an identical feature in Canvas, and so something that the LMS team is planning to provide is some help in mapping the uses of collaboration sites into Canvas. That seems to me like a good topic for a town hall during the summer, or some other kind of demo and discussion. So it's still something that's being worked out. In terms of the timing, Lucy or Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that by winter of 22, the goal is to have all of these transferred as well. It hasn't been an explicit goal, but it seems like that would be a reasonable target. It depends a little bit on the workload of the teams that are involved in the transition and exactly what's necessary to get the collaboration sites moved. But if there are heavy uses, it is something to make sure that has been communicated to the change management folks that are meeting on a regular basis with the academic units, and they'll surface that up, and we'll figure out a way to address it. But it seems like a good topic for town hall that we could take on and talk a bit about in the next month or two.
All right, and just as a quick follow, it just says I have a collaboration site for staff working group, not for a class. Is the migration process identical, and is it automatic?
My understanding is that it is not necessarily identical, but performed by the same vendor.
Right.
So it's part of the same process, and it is automatic.
Okay, great, thank you. Next up, it just says, please have a collaboration site town hall. We use these extensively, so that's a great recommendation. Thank you, Leah. The next question has to do with the studio. If you won't have studio right away, what will you be using for instructional videos?
I could try to answer. So as Jeff mentioned earlier, we have a software working group that's going to be vetting options for each function that we're trying to add to the Canvas platform. So that decision hopefully will be made ahead of time. You know, if it's not the studio, then another tool will be available.
And just as a quick follow-on to Lucy, that software steering committee that is reviewing the tools, the tool currently under review is Kaltura, and we're going through the finalization of planning for that right now. But it goes through a very rigorous process through multiple stakeholder groups to ensure that we've captured the right tools in order to integrate those that are of most benefit to the campus.
And there may not be exact feature parity between Kaltura and Canvas Studio. So I think the intent is that Kaltura will continue as the video publishing platform, but if there are other features that are available in something like Studio, that's where there's going to be additional evaluation of what could be offered by that software work group. So it would be great to get, again, input either to the program team or through the academic units in terms of the types of tools that you're interested in that have integration with Canvas. Since there are a number of support folks as guests, I wanted to follow up on my unplanned demo error and explain a little bit of what happened here. So if, Victoria, if I could share screen. Okay, so just in case it comes up for anyone else, you'll remember that I added Theater 113 as a new course. And one of the things to note is that it does not automatically parse the number out of the course name for new courses. And so when I tried to filter by catalog number, it wasn't there, but it does show up in my course list, and it would show up in the terms if I sort by the terms planned. So just verification.
Okay. Next up, Jeff, is there a list of features, types of tools, and tool ideas available somewhere?
There are several of those types of lists that exist internally with the project team. We're working on exactly how we might share it externally. So I think if this might be, again, an interesting topic to go through one of the subsequent town halls and kind of review the certainly the list of LTIs and integrations that are under discussion, the process by which they'll be reviewed and approved and included, and also an opportunity maybe to collect tool ideas. And so as far as a list of features for Canvas, that's going to be the topic of the Canvas training. And we expect, I think, at some point that training to include LTIs that are campus-wide. Is there any chance that software work group won't approve Kaltura or other software that is currently available on CCLE or Moodle? So there's a number of steps. The software work group doesn't approve. They review and recommend. And the approval involves review for security and privacy, accessibility, cost, a number of other factors. And so there's a series of decisions that have to be made for each tool, and each tool will be evaluated. And I think this might be a good process to discuss in a later town hall and go through what that process looks like. So it is possible that tools that exist on CCLE and Moodle would not carry over. It seems, Kaltura is not necessarily one of those. It's been strongly supported by both the program team, software work group, and so on. So I don't expect it in that case. For the other software, something that we're trying to understand is who is using it, what's the value, is it the leading tool, are there other options? And so what would be helpful, again, is to surface up through the academic unit leads and the faculty champions advocacy for specific tools, whether they're existing or ones that would improve on existing tools, and then those will go to the work group for some recommendation, and then go through the approval and purchasing process that I described. So I think that answers the question. And again, I think we're looking for input, and we're already kind of working back from the current list of CCLE and Moodle tools. That was the starting point for the reviews that are happening. And if there's a desire to make sure that the tool is around and there's a particular pedagogical reason, we would love to hear it and incorporate it into that process. So it's not a blanket transfer of all the LTIs, but there's a lot of opportunity for input in that process.
Next up, this is kind of a two-part question. Did you mention that if recorded Zoom videos have auto captioning, we have to record to cloud? It doesn't work if recording locally, but recording Zoom to local is, a better HD quality.
Right. I think these types of things that are related to offering course material or faculty may use either for remotely taught or asynchronous materials are things that I hope over time the LMS project will contribute to. And I know that the teaching and learning units and individual units have guides on exactly these points. And so I'm not sure if I am answering the question, but I think these are the types of things that we expect eventually to be covering once we get through the basics of Canvas, but that are also things that the teaching and learning units are providing guidance on as well. Is there a list of who is on the software working group? I thought was on the website, but I couldn't know. I'm looking now. It looks like that group may not be,
I think it's missing.
yeah, it may not be on the website, but we can
Okay,
really
we
add
can
it.
add
So
that.
the place, I will just type the answer. The place where it will be is under the committees and subject matter experts and program teams. So we'll update that to make sure that list of people is there. Respondents, I don't have an answer off the top of my head, but I believe so. I think that's
Next up, I've heard that TA sites are no longer going to be supported. My TAs rely on these to teach their sections. What will the alternative for them be?
So I can answer that. I think just with a deferral to another town hall, it sounds like we should cover collaboration sites and TA sites at the same time, and what some of the alternative methods for supporting TAs in Canvas would be. And so I think without getting into it in too much detail, that would be my suggestion, is that we'll cover that with some detail in, I would imagine, either the next, either the July or August town halls. There is not a one-to-one mapping, so it requires going into Canvas in a little more detail.
We'll just leave it open for another few minutes if we have any questions. Here we go. When collaboration sites are migrated, can we request user data be moved over as well?
It is my understanding that user data is not being moved, but I don't know if the project team thinks otherwise.
Is there a way to be more specific about the user data? And then we can look into it with the migration team. It might depend on exactly what you mean by user data.
It says here, student data cannot be migrated into Canvas. We're working on an archiving solution. Only course content can be migrated, but that's the only data item that we can move at this time, but we are looking at a solution for the student data.
So I think if there's a clarification to the type of user data, though, that for the collaboration sites, that would be helpful to understand. So either offline or in the Q&A, it'd be great to learn the specific interest in user data, and whether it's things like guest account information or some other type of user information. That'd be great. We may need to discuss what the solution. I can imagine what some of the questions are there, but don't want to assume much.
Okay. Just want to say thank you for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts and questions with us. As mentioned earlier, the slide deck and the recording will be posted on our website. Have a great rest of the day.